Hello viewers, welcome to my channel, Sensor 360 Investor, where we leverage best practices from the business world, the companies we invest in, and apply them to the investing process. Investing is complex and has many facets. Here we incorporate a 360 framework to manage the process and our money in alignment with our bucket strategy. In this video, we're going to focus on a little bit of all aspects because this topic here is about knowing your investment style. And that is the title topic for the video. Before we begin, a quick word on the disclaimer. Remember, this is not providing financial advice. It's an educational channel. Please pause, read, and continue. Okay, so without much further ado, let's start the show. Okay, so investment style. Do you know yourself? So this is interesting because I asked 20 of my friends about this question, and I put in the framework of, what's your self-perception? And I gave them a choice of if you were to pick a iconic character or movie hero, etc., whether it's a cartoon or real or fiction or whatever, who would you pick? And I gave them a bunch of choices. So pretty much all of them out of 20 picked James Bond as how they see themselves, even though most of them may look like Family Guy. So it's kind of the self-perceptions and the biases that we build in. So it is important to know yourself. And with that, coupled with that, is to equally know what your investment style is. So we're going to kind of get into this. And if you don't know your investment style, let's figure out a way on determining that. There are multiple investment styles as well. So some of you who may have filled out paperwork for options, etc., this is a question that typically gets asked, and the question that will always pop up, okay, so if there are multiple investment styles, what is the best investment style? So how do we answer that? And so we'll take a look at that today as well. And we are going to use an analogy of the FIFA World Cup tournaments to help us find that investment style and also figure out if there is a best investment style, and if there is, which one is that? Okay, so excluding the current year, there have been 21 tournaments, and Brazil has reached 7 finals out of 21, and they've also they've actually reached all 21 tournament finals. They've won 7 times. They've won 5 times, lost twice, appeared in 7 finals in total. Then next up is Germany. Germany has contested in 8 finals, but they were banned in 1 tournament after World War II. So they've only really competed in 20. But out of that 20, they reached 8 finals. So they've won 4 times and lost 4. And third up is Italy. Italy has reached 6 finals, and out of which they won 4 times and lost twice. However, and we'll talk about this in a minute, but Italy hasn't reached all 21 finals, or they've failed to qualify a couple times. So these are the teams with the best records out of the World Cup. So if you were to just take a quick count of, how many times these 3 teams have appeared in the final, oddly, it comes to 21 itself. Although statistics are, as we're going to find out, statistics can be misleading because some of these finals, the teams actually played amongst themselves. So certainly Brazil and Italy have met in a few finals. Italy and Germany have also met in finals. I don't think Germany and Brazil have met in a final. I'll have to double check that. Maybe you can check it for me and put it in the comments. So these are the teams that dominate the FIFA World Cup tournaments. As you can see, amongst them, they basically own it. So let's take a look at each one of these. So Brazil is a very offensive team in terms of its offense oriented, and then so that's akin to an aggressive investment style. The strategy is very high. It's high risk. They like to attack, and they like to push players up the field. They win generally when they have four or more attacking players that can score goals from the midfield and from up front. They typically lose when the attack cannot overcome the defense shortcomings, i.e., they can't score enough goals to overcome the goals that they leak in. Their edge is that it's a large nation, large population. They have a huge talent of players. And however, some of their best talent players now play in Europe. So the skill edge that they had has been nullified somewhat. And their famous loss was that they were hammered by Germany in the semis in Brazil itself, 7-1. Okay, let's take a look at Germany. Germany would be classed as investments are moderate. They're kind of a zonal process formation type of team. Their strategy is very disciplined, rules-based. They play kind of a zonal system, man-to-man marking within their zones. They win when they have a newly minted team of young players, coupled with a few seniors like an inspirational captain. They lose when that team starts to age and they're in need of renewal, so the growth has matured. The edge, they have one of the best youth systems to nurture talent from a young age, and they are very process-oriented, precision, and discipline. Their famous loss was in 1966 to England. And then let's take a look at Italy. Italy's a much more defensive-oriented team. So that would be akin to like a conservative type of investment style. Their strategy is kind of low risk. They play multiple defensive players. They have some of the best goalkeepers. So they're very defense oriented. Italy generally wins if they've qualified when they have a world class striker and they can defend a lead and they have some momentum behind them. They will lose generally when they fall behind and their play becomes erratic, trying to get the equalizer, and they become overly dependent on counterattacks, leaving them open to getting scored against themselves. Their edges, they produce some great goalkeepers, and some of the best goalkeepers in history have come from the Italian team, and they've also produced some brilliant defensive players. They can be unpredictable. They can have great teams, but also qualify for many of the World Cup finals. Of the three countries that we looked at, Italy has the worst record for actual just making it to the finals. Infamous loss was to North Korea when they lost to them. Okay, so outside of the big three, France has won twice, and they are an upcoming nation, one to watch, and they'll probably be a force in the future. Argentina's also won twice, and they certainly have the world's best player, Lionel Messi, on their team. Senegal is a fancy team from Africa. The African nations are upcoming, and so probably one to watch would be Spain. I mean, Senegal. I keep calling Senegal Spain. Sorry about that. And let's actually talk about Spain. Spain has also been rising in the world on the world platform. They did pick up the World Cup recently, and then the Cinderella team of the World Cup is really the Netherlands. They've reached three finals and they've lost all three. They have produced some fantastic players like Johan Cruyff along the way, and they're a good side to watch. You can never discount the Dutch. And then last but not least, England has won the World Cup once. It is the home of football, and the game was invented. Okay, so let's look at some of the statistics. And so Brazil has gone to 7 finals out of 21. So their win ratio, their kind of success ratio, I should say, is at 33%. Their win-loss ratio sits at 2.5. And if you had placed a $1,000 bet on every time they reached the final, you would be up $3,000. Germany, on the other hand, has an even bet. So their win-loss ratio is 1 out of, but 8 finals out of 20 that they were eligible for. So their success ratio is 40%. Win-loss is 1. If you place $1,000 bet on wins and losses, you would be even out. And then Italy, their success ratio is 35%. They haven't made all of the finals, only 17 excluding this year, and their win-loss ratio is at 2. So if you placed a bet of 1,000 on their finals, you'd be up 2,000. Now, the couple of nuances. One, a couple of times these teams have played against each other, so you may have to split that bet. But if you look at it at the statistics, then certainly you would want to bet on Brazil on the win-loss ratio and just on the money that you've earned. And they have a pretty well fancied success ratios too. Germany's success ratio is better, but you would have not made any money, and so it's kind of an even bet. Whereas Italy has the second highest success ratio. They have a pretty good win-loss ratio, and you definitely would have made some money. So this part of the problem with averages is if you look at Germany, they've had they've reached 8 finals, they won 4, lost 4, and so that gives them a win-loss ratio over 1. But you would certainly, if Germany reaches the final, you would certainly want to bet something on them. But even for all their success ratios, an even bet, you would end up with 0. So just a little side note on averages. The FIFA World Cup this year is in Qatar, starts November 20th, and certainly it's going to be quite the event, as always. Okay, so back to investment styles. So if you filled out any, request for options trading, you'd be asked for, risk profile, and the typical ones are very aggressive, moderate, conservative, very conservative. And your investment style pegged to is usually, if you're very aggressive, you consider speculative, into speculation. Aggressive is usually, if you like, momentum trading and stuff like that, APOs, high growth stocks. Moderate is kind of a blend structure of trying to balancing growth and income. Conservative is you're more defensive or value, cyclical investor. Very conservative, you're mostly in bonds and fixed incomes, CDs, etc. And then if we tie the nations and their investment styles to investment styles, Brazil would be considered aggressive, Germany moderate, Italy would be considered conservative. But from this data we've seen, there's very little to choose from, and it also depends on which metric you use to determine which might be better. And between the money earned, the win-loss ratio, and the success ratio, it's very hard to pick one out. So they're kind of even all the way through. Okay, so let's look at something else that might help us. So this is the famous and brilliant Bruce Lee picture from his Jeet Kune Do. And in his movie Enter the Dragon, Lee's character is asked on the boat, "What is your style?" And his response is, "I have no style. I am all styles." Eventually, he did create Jeet Kune Do, even though his core training was Wing Chun. Wing Chun is still popular and taught around the world, but Jeet Kune Do, no one's really, learning it, although it was more effective. And then if we look at how does that apply to investing, and with the edge, so Bruce Lee's edge with Jeet Kune Do, our edge in Sensor 360 is the fact that we have a framework that encompasses markets and trading, which is up here for momentum. Equities would be your moderate style up here, and your indexes would be more your conservative. So we blend all of these investment styles to create our edge, just as Bruce Lee created his edge with Jeet Kune Do. Okay, so that concludes the investment styles using the analogy of the FIFA World Cup. I hope you found this interesting and useful. And if nothing, get those creative juices flowing. Do take a second, if you haven't already, to read the disclaimer and just pause. And if you've already done it, that's great. So that concludes it for this video. I will wrap up by saying thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Hope you enjoyed this, and I will see you on the next video.